Ferris Bueller is Cameron's imaginary friend. This theory argues that the entire events of Ferris Bueller's Day Off take place in Cameron's head, with Ferris serving as the confident alter ego Cameron wishes he could be. Supporters point to how few people outside of Cameron and Sloane actually interact with Ferris directly. The principal never catches him, despite numerous attempts. Most conversations happen with just the three of them. Cameron undergoes the real character arc in the film, finding confidence and standing up to his father. The theory suggests Ferris is the fantasy version of himself that Cameron creates to escape his anxious, controlled life. The parade scene, where Ferris commands the entire city's attention, feels dreamlike and impossible for a high school student to pull off. Here's the problem. Director John Hughes explicitly and repeatedly denied this theory in interviews before his death. He stated Ferris was absolutely a real person, and that the story was meant to be taken at face value. Hughes had actually written a treatment for a sequel where Ferris would attend college, confirming his continued existence as a real character. The screenplay includes scenes with Ferris alone that serve no purpose if he's imaginary. The entire Bueller family dynamic, including scenes with his parents and sister that don't involve Cameron at all, contradicts the theory. Hughes based Ferris on a real friend from his youth, someone who genuinely had that magnetic, confident personality. Jar Jar Sith, Jar Jar Binks, was secretly intended to be a Sith Lord. Fans noticed peculiar details in The Phantom Menace that suggested Jar Jar might be using Force powers while pretending to be clumsy. His exaggerated physical movements mirror drunken master martial arts styles. He jumps impossibly high during battle sequences. His hand gestures often occur right before other characters change their minds or take actions. The theory exploded online, with supporters creating detailed video analyses showing how Jar Jar's mouth movements sync with other characters' dialogue, suggesting mind control. He somehow rises from exiled outcast to Gungan general to galactic senator remarkably quickly. The theory argues George Lucas intended a massive reveal in Attack of the Clones, but chickened out after fan backlash. Palpatine's line about his mentor being Darth Plagueis the Wise would have referred to Jar Jar. This theory falls apart under scrutiny. George Lucas, the writers, and actor Ahmed Best have all categorically denied any secret Sith plot. Lucas confirmed in interviews that Jar Jar was designed purely as comic relief to appeal to younger audiences, following the same role as C-3PO in the original trilogy. Early screenplay drafts and production documents contain zero hints of a Sith Jar Jar reveal. His expanded role in the Clone Wars animated series shows him consistently portrayed as a well-meaning bumbler with no Force abilities. The actor himself addressed the theory directly, stating he was never given any direction, suggesting hidden menace or secret power. Lucas later admitted Jar Jar was a miscalculation in tone, but maintained the character served exactly the purpose he was created for. No abandoned footage, scripts, or storyboards have ever surfaced showing a planned reveal. Grease dreams Sandy drowned at the beach in the opening scene, and the entire movie is her dying dream. This dark theory proposes that when Danny fails to save Sandy from the wave during Love is a Strange Thing, she actually dies. Everything that follows represents her oxygen-deprived brain, creating a fantasy where she gets the boy and the perfect high school experience. Supporters cite the increasingly surreal elements as the movie progresses. Characters break into elaborate choreographed musical numbers. The final scene shows the car literally flying into the sky, which makes no logical sense. The song Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee includes the lyric Goodbye to Sandra Dee, which theorists interpret as Sandy saying goodbye to her life. The entire aesthetic feels dreamlike and heightened beyond reality. Some versions of the theory suggest the movie represents Sandy's last thoughts before dying, explaining why everything feels both nostalgic and impossible. Writer Jim Jacobs, who created the original stage musical, explicitly denied this theory in multiple interviews. The stage show debuted in 1971, 7 years before the film, with the exact same flying car ending. That ending was designed as theatrical spectacle and wish fulfillment, not as evidence of death. The sequel, Grease 2, takes place at the same high school with returning characters, confirming the events were real within that universe. Jacobs explained the flying car represents the couple transcending their social limitations and literally rising above their problems, a metaphor made visual. The movie is intentionally stylized and fantastical because it's a musical, a genre that operates on heightened reality. Director Randall Kleiser confirmed the film was meant as pure escapist entertainment. The Goodbye to Sandra Dee lyric refers to Sandy shedding her good girl image, not dying. Contemporary reviews and marketing materials from 1978 treated the film as a straightforward musical romance with no death themes whatsoever. Inception. Totem. The spinning top at the end of Inception proves Cobb is still dreaming. This theory focuses obsessively on the final shot where Cobb's totem spins on the table, In dreams, the top spins forever without falling. In reality, it eventually topples. The movie cuts to black while the top is still spinning, but appears to wobble slightly. Theorists argue this ambiguity means Cobb never escaped the dream layers. They point to how perfect his reunion with his children seems, with them wearing the exact same clothes and appearing the same age as his memories. The way other characters behave around him at the airport feels slightly off. Michael Caine's character appearing suggests we're still in a dream, since he appears in many dream sequences. The theory gained such traction that it became the dominant interpretation, with many viewers convinced the ending definitively shows Cobb is still asleep. Director Christopher Nolan revealed the real answer in an interview years after release, and it contradicts the popular theory. The spinning top is not actually Cobb's real totem. His wedding ring is the true totem. Throughout the movie, Cobb wears his wedding ring in every dream sequence, but never wears it in reality, because in real life, Mal is dead, and he's no longer married. In the final scene, Cobb is not wearing the ring. Nolan confirmed this was intentional, and that the final scene takes place in reality. The filmmaker explained he included the ambiguous spinning top shot to make a point about how Cobb no longer cares whether he's dreaming, because he's with his children either way. The children are wearing different clothes and are played by different older actors in the final scene, though the difference is subtle. Nolan stated in a 2015 interview at Princeton University that the audience was getting lost in the wrong question by obsessing over the top. The ring detail was his way of providing a definitive answer for careful viewers. Totoro death. The sisters in My Neighbor Totoro are dead or dying throughout the film. This disturbing theory originated online, and suggests that Satsuki and Mei either died or are dying during the movie's events. Supporters claim the sisters lose their shadows in the second half of the film, which allegedly symbolizes death in Japanese culture. The Totoro creatures are death spirits guiding them to the afterlife. The movie takes place near Sayama, Japan, where a real 1963 murder case involved two sisters. The hospital visit to see their sick mother represents the boundary between life and death. Totoro only appears to the girls when they're in distress, suggesting he's a psychopomp. The final scenes show the mother recovering and the family reunited, but theorists argue this is the afterlife or a dying wish fulfillment. The cat bus could be a vehicle transporting souls. This theory became so widespread that many viewers began accepting it as intentional subtext. Studio Ghibli issued an official statement on their website explicitly denying this theory. The studio explained that the supposed missing shadows were simply an animation choice based on lighting conditions and time of day, not symbolic of death. Director Hayao Miyazaki stated in interviews that he created Totoro as a comforting nature spirit based on Japanese folklore, with no death themes intended. The Sayama incident connection is coincidental. Miyazaki set the story in that area because of its natural beauty, and the time period matches his own childhood. The studio clarified that in Japanese culture, shadows don't represent life force the way the theory claims. Miyazaki designed Totoro specifically to comfort children dealing with anxiety about sick parents, drawing from his own childhood when his mother was hospitalized for tuberculosis. The entire film's message centers on hope, imagination, and family bonds during difficult times. The official Studio Ghibli statement called the death theory absolutely false and asked fans to stop spreading it because it contradicted Miyazaki's intentions and upset parents showing the film to young children. James Bond codename. James Bond is a codename passed between different agents, which explains why different actors play him. This theory attempts to solve the obvious real-world reason for recasting by proposing an in-universe explanation. Multiple men have held the 007 designation and taken the name James Bond as part of their cover. This would explain why Bond's personality, appearance, and approach change dramatically between films. Roger Moore's Bond behaves nothing like Sean Connery's Bond. The theory suggests MI6 assigns the James Bond identity to different agents over decades, similar to how the Dread Pirate Roberts works in The Princess Bride. Some versions propose that James Bond is a legendary name that intimidates enemies, so the agency maintains the fiction that he's one immortal agent. Fans created elaborate timelines showing which actor played which iteration of Bond. The theory gained legitimacy when some official marketing materials seemed to play with the idea. Skyfall definitively destroys this theory. The 2012 film shows Bond's childhood home in Scotland, complete with a family graveyard bearing the name Bond. His parents, Andrew Bond and Monique Delacroix Bond, died when he was young, and their headstones appear on screen. He grew up in that house as James Bond. This confirms Bond is his real name, not a code name. Additionally, On Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969 shows direct continuity between different actors. George Lazenby's Bond cleans out his desk and finds gadgets from Sean Connery's previous missions, then says, "This never happened to the other fellow," breaking the fourth wall, but confirming he's the same person. The Bond films contain numerous references to previous missions and relationships that span different actors, particularly Tracy DiVincenzo, whose death affects Bonds played by multiple actors. Ian Fleming's original novels feature one single James Bond throughout, with consistent backstory and family history. The codename theory contradicts decades of established continuity and was never intended by the filmmakers. It's purely fan speculation that gained traction online, despite overwhelming evidence against it. Pixar Universe. All Pixar movies exist in one connected universe with a shared timeline. This elaborate theory was popularized by John Negroni, who created a detailed timeline connecting every Pixar film into one continuous narrative. The theory proposes that Brave's magic awakens consciousness in animals and objects. This leads to the animal revolution hinted at in Ratatouille and Finding Nemo. The Incredibles shows humans creating advanced AI. Cars represents a future where humans are extinct and machines have evolved. WALL-E shows how humans left Earth and the planet became a wasteland. Monsters, Inc. takes place in the far future, where monsters are actually mutated creatures powered by time-traveling doors to harvest human emotion energy. Boo, from Monsters, Inc. becomes the witch from Brave, creating a time loop. Supporters point to Easter eggs like the Pizza Planet truck appearing in multiple films, by and large corporation references across movies, and character cameos as proof. The theory includes elaborate explanations for how magic, technology, and evolution connect everything across thousands of years. Pixar's creators have repeatedly stated this is not true. The Easter eggs are just fun references and inside jokes between animators, not evidence of a shared universe. Pete Docter, Lee Unkrich, Brad Bird, and other Pixar directors have confirmed in separate interviews that they never coordinated their stories to fit one timeline. Each film is created by different teams working independently, with Easter eggs added as tributes to other Pixar films, not as canonical connections. The timeline contains impossible contradictions that break down under scrutiny. The technological level in The Incredibles doesn't match WALL-E's timeline. Cars shows Earth with oceans and geography, but WALL-E shows a dead planet. Toy Story's rules about consciousness don't match Up's reality. The theory requires massive logical leaps and ignores explicit contradictions in the actual films. Andrew Stanton, director of WALL-E and Finding Nemo, directly addressed this theory by saying, "I think they're fun, but that's all they are." John Lasseter explained that Pixar includes references as appreciation for their fellow filmmakers, calling the shared universe theory a creative interpretation that fans enjoy, but it's not something we ever planned or believe in. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I post videos like this regularly. A subscription would really help out. Willy Wonka, Death Willy Wonka, is systematically killing the children in his chocolate factory. This dark reinterpretation of the 1971 film suggests that each child's accident is actually a planned murder. Augustus Gloop drowns in the chocolate river. Violet Beauregard explodes after turning into a blueberry. Veruca Salt gets incinerated in the furnace. Mike TV is molecularly disintegrated by the television machine. The theory points to Wonka's complete lack of concern when children disappear. He barely reacts to each incident and immediately continues the tour. The Oompa Loompas have rehearsed songs ready for each specific child's demise, suggesting premeditation. Wonka's whole contest seems designed to lure children to their deaths. His bizarre behavior and disconnection from reality indicate psychopathy. The theory argues the entire factory is the elaborate death trap, and Charlie only survives because he follows the rules. Some versions suggest Wonka needs child souls or ingredients to make his candy. Roald Dahl's original book and its sequel, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, explicitly show all the children survived. Augustus returns home, covered in chocolate, but alive. Violet remains blue, but is otherwise fine. Veruca is covered in garbage, but unharmed. Mike is stretched back to normal size. The sequel features several of these children and their families again, confirming their survival. Director Mel Stewart stated the film's intention was teaching moral lessons about bad behavior having consequences, not death. The Oompa Loompa songs in both the book and film are explicitly about teaching moments, not celebrating murder. The factory's dangers represent consequences for disobedience and greed, a common theme in children's literature. Wonka's odd reactions are due to his eccentric personality and social awkwardness from isolation, not sociopathy. The children are injured and taught lessons, but the story never intended for them to die. Dahl himself was still alive when the film was made and would have objected to children being murdered in his story. Terminator loop. The Terminator timeline is a perfect stable time loop with no beginning. This theory proposes that Kyle Reese traveling back to 1984 and fathering John Connor creates a predestination paradox where John Connor creates himself. John sends his own father back in time, knowing Kyle will die but must complete the loop. The original Terminator seems to support this. Kyle explains that John gave him a picture of Sarah Connor, creating romantic feelings before they met. Without the Terminator's CPU chip left in 1984, Skynet never gets invented, so Skynet must send the Terminator back to ensure its own creation. Everything happens because it already happened. No one can change anything. The loop is causally closed, with no true origin point. Fans created diagrams showing how every event causes itself in an infinite loop. This interpretation dominated discussions of the franchise for years. James Cameron himself contradicted this interpretation. He confirmed the Terminator universe operates on multiple timelines, not a single closed loop. Each time travel event creates a new branch, allowing for changes. Terminator 2 establishes that the future is not set, with Sarah Connor's no fate but what we make philosophy. They successfully prevent Judgment Day in 1997 by destroying Cyberdyne's research, proving the timeline can change. Terminator Genesis from 2015 explicitly shows an altered timeline where events happen differently because of previous time travel interference. Dark Fate from 2019 creates yet another altered timeline. Cameron stated in interviews that the first film could work as a loop, but that subsequent films intentionally break that loop to show characters can change fate. The existence of multiple sequels with different outcomes proves the timeline isn't stable or fixed. If it were a perfect loop, no sequel could exist with different events. The franchise's entire thematic core revolves around choice and changing destiny, which contradicts the closed loop theory. E.T. Star Wars. E.T. and Star Wars exist in the same universe. This theory emerged when members of E.T.'s alien species appear in the Galactic Senate scene in The Phantom Menace from 1999. 3 creatures that look exactly like E.T. sit in the Senate chamber when Queen Amidala addresses the council. Fans theorized this means E.T. traveled from the Star Wars galaxy to Earth. His ability to make Elliot's bicycle fly resembles Force powers. He tries to phone home to call a ship from the Star Wars galaxy. The visual reference seems too specific to be coincidental. Some elaborate versions of the theory map out how E.T.'s species might have traveled between galaxies and when this could have occurred in Star Wars chronology. The crossover was celebrated as a hidden connection between two beloved Spielberg and Lucas properties. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas both confirmed this was never intended as a canonical connection. The E.T. aliens appear in The Phantom Menace purely as a friendly joke between the two directors, who are close friends. Spielberg had children in Halloween costumes in E.T., including one dressed as Yoda, as a tribute to Star Wars. Lucas returned the favor by putting E.T.'s species in his movie. Both filmmakers stated explicitly in separate interviews that this was an Easter egg and nothing more. The movies exist in completely separate fictional universes with incompatible rules and physics. Star Wars takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, while E.T. takes place in contemporary Earth. E.T.'s abilities are not Force powers, but rather his own species' natural capabilities. Lucasfilm's official stance is that background aliens in Star Wars often resemble creatures from other properties as visual jokes, but this doesn't make them canonical. The crossover was a one-time visual gag between friends, not a planned shared universe. Tarantino Universe. All Quentin Tarantino films exist in one shared universe. Fans noticed recurring elements across Tarantino's filmography and concluded everything connects. The Vega brothers, Vic from Reservoir Dogs and Vincent from Pulp Fiction, are siblings. Red Apple cigarettes appear in nearly every film. Big Kahuna Burger shows up multiple times. The Jack Rabbit Slim's restaurant, Alabama from True Romance, and other characters get referenced across movies. Tarantino himself mentioned in interviews that his films share a universe, which seemed to confirmed the theory. Fans created elaborate wikis, mapping every connection, treating all his movies as one continuous world. The theory suggests characters could theoretically meet each other, and events from one film impact others. This became accepted as canon by much of Tarantino's fanbase. The reality is more complicated than fans believe. Tarantino actually described two separate universes within his filmography, not one. He explained there's the realer-than-real universe and the movie universe. The realer-than-real universe includes Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, and Death Proof. These films exist in a heightened but relatively grounded reality. The movie universe includes Kill Bill, Inglourious Basterds, and Django Unchained. These are the movies that characters in the realer-than-real universe would watch in theaters. Kill Bill is too stylized and fantastical to exist in the same reality as Pulp Fiction. Inglourious Basterds rewrites history with Hitler dying in a theater fire. Django Unchained features similar alternate history. Tarantino clarified this distinction in a 2015 interview, but many fans either missed it or ignore it. The two universes have different rules, physics, and levels of reality. Treating everything as one shared universe misunderstands Tarantino's actual creative framework. The connections exist, but they're more complex and layered than the simple everything is connected theory suggests. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing so you catch future videos. Thanks for watching.